Hello and welcome back. I am your host for the weekend, Rhea Sylvia, for this Game Gym's end of summer bash. And today, to kick off the first interview of the weekend, I have with me the executive director, Shea Williams, and the managing director, Chris Spikowski of COPE, Coalition for Parents in Esports. So, welcome, Shea and Chris. How are y'all doing?
We're doing great. Thanks for
We're
having
great.
us.
Thank you.
That's awesome. So let's start just by introductions. Shay, if you want to go ahead and start, just to tell us a little bit about yourself, and also if both of you want to tell us a little bit about your kids, because I just learned just before we went live that your kids are actually watching you on stream right now. So maybe you can tell us a little bit how you feel about that.
Yeah, not feeling good about that actually. Very unsettling actually having my streamer son watching me live. But yeah, so I am, I grew up as a gamer, but just like, a lot of people, I was a casual gamer. And I was an engineering major in school. So I was all about software and I, worked in software for many years. So when my kids grew up, they were introduced to games at a very young age. But it was just that fun family time. My kids were super active. They were into multiple sports. But, I started seeing that my son was gravitating towards video games. It was that time when he got home that was important to him. And, at first I was skeptical, like any parent, why are you spending so much time doing this? But when I really started paying attention, that's when I realized there was actually something more to this. And it was socially, I realized that the relationships he was forming online were incredibly strong and they were stronger than most relationships he had IRL. And I also saw that it was more than just getting good at a video game. He was actually learning some really amazing business skills and social skills and all kinds of things. And he was learning leadership, leading a Twitch stream. And so, yeah, I was fascinated by it. And so, how I got here is I started paying attention and I decided maybe I should try to help him. But that's where I got frustrated because when we did decide to homeschool him and focus on it, there were no resources for me. I went online, there was just nothing to go to. I figured out the gaming community was on Twitter, but where do I go? Where do I find info?
Shay, we're gonna that's actually we're gonna jump right into that next. I did want to give Chris a chance to introduce himself because the resources portion is absolutely that's the point of this panel. We're gonna get to it absolutely. So, Chris, why don't you let us know a little bit about yourself and your kids? Are they watching you? And how do you get to this point?
Yeah, so I believe my kid is watching me, which much like Shay, it's a little unsettling. Having my content creator kid watching me, I expect to have a list of his feedback and critique when we're all done here. So I'll keep you all posted on that. But yeah, prior to getting involved with the gaming scene and with Cope, and prior to getting involved with the community, I was director for Developmental Disabilities Institute. Did that for about almost 22 years, overseeing group homes with autistic adults. Casual gamer my whole life growing up, never competitively. I'm old, so back then there really wasn't much of a competitive scene, but always played with my son. When we weren't, he was in Little League. I was his Little League coach. He was in soccer or karate. I was always there on the sidelines rooting him on, but he always kind of gravitated back towards gaming and playing games, and he was pretty good at it. It wasn't until he was about 10 that he started to get better than me at these games and started beating me. So I knew he was onto something. I knew he was pretty good at it. But when he was 10, he told me very definitively, he's like, "This is it, Dad. I'm going to be a YouTuber. Just watch, just wait." So it was all about supporting him from then on out. Same way I did with Little League and soccer, just setting him up to succeed and doing the best that he can through that. So yeah, it was all about just kind of joining him and going for the journey and enjoying the journey with him.
Absolutely. I like the point that, okay, the point when he started beating you is when you decided that he was pretty good. I think that says you have pretty good opinion of your own gaming
Yeah,
skills.
we were always very competitive. So I I didn't want to let him win, but once he started beating me, it got tough for me.
Absolutely. So I'd like to talk about the period where, okay, your kids are interested in becoming either professional gamers or streamers, YouTubers, Twitch streamers, right? I think most parents, and Shay, you mentioned your first thought was concern, right? talk to us, what are some of the concerns that parents are coming up with, feeling, thinking about when their kids would like to go into esports or streaming? And Chris, I'll let you go first this time.
So some of my concerns, I guess the biggest concern I had when he first got into this was talking to strangers. I remember when he first got his computer and his Xbox and he was playing online. I had made up a laminated card for him and stuck it right by his monitor and his TV. First thing on it was no randoms. We didn't want him talking to any strangers, talking to any randoms. So it was always, checking in with him and making sure he was behaving himself and not doing anything he wasn't supposed to. But aside from that, the more he did get involved in the community and jumping on Twitter, he did meet a lot of great people on the scene. So that kind of helped. That changed over time, and that kind of alleviated some of my concerns a little bit. Because even though he was meeting some older kids, and I know Shay's going to elaborate on this as well, they were great mentors and they were great people. So I think just me being involved and me being not so much controlling with him, but talking with him about things and giving him that freedom to explore and do things, but with a little bit of oversight, it was definitely beneficial and helped alleviate a lot of my issues and concerns.
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. So definitely safety is one of the main concerns parents have. Shay, what about you? What were some of your concerns when your son said, "Okay, I'm going to be a streamer. That's what I'm doing"?
Well, I think my biggest concern was he wanted to homeschool so he could focus on it. I did not want to be a homeschool parent. That was not part of this. And I think most parents are really worried about education. They're worried that this is a dead end. Why are you wasting so much time here? You should be doing sports and getting exercise. What is in this? They don't see anything coming out of it. And I think that's one of the biggest concerns. And that was something that we saw with our own children really wasn't true, that they were getting so much more out of that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So where are you going from here, right? Why are you spending so much time on something that parents see, like you said, as a dead end? That's definitely a concern we hear over and over again. So what made you realize that it was different, that esports and gaming, there are avenues to have a future, have a career in it if you'd like, but even if you don't want to have a career, that it has other values like building leadership skills that Chris mentioned, or friendships, and just learning how to be a better communicator. So Shay, what really turned your thought process around on this?
Yeah, I think all of us parents had one light bulb moment. And for me, it was Fortnite World Cup. When we went to that event and we were standing in the lobby and I'm watching all of these people, around us, the pro gamers, the shoutcasters, you know, org owners, and I'm starting to meet these people, I was completely fascinated because, as I mentioned, I grew up in the dot-com era of software. I always felt incredibly lucky and blessed that I came out of college at a time that there was a technological boom. And because of that, it was fun. I was with a software company and I had a blast with work. And I always wanted my kids to find something like that as well. And I was standing there in that hotel, looking around, meeting all these people and thinking, my 14-year-old son has already found it. He's found something he loved. He has found something that is an incredibly exploding industry. And we are meeting all of these people that are so passionate about it and are starting all these incredible businesses. So that was kind of my moment where I said, okay, maybe there's something to this. Maybe we should actually focus on it.
I love it. I love it. I think a lot of times, so many parents have, even if it's not conscious, maybe it's in the back of their minds, but a lot of times parents will have an idea of the path that they would like their kids to take in life. And when their kids would like to do something different, that's what creates that tension. Uh, and that's why it's so important, like you said, to just think, okay, what I really want for my kid is for them to find passion and happiness, and really recognize when that happens. So that's incredible. I really like your light bulb moment. Now, Chris, did you have a light bulb moment yourself, or were you always just about, all about games since you're a gamer yourself?
No, I had a couple of light bulb moments. The first one being watching what he was doing at the age of 10 and the age of 13, just creating his own content, the creativity that came out of it, and the branding and the marketing. Like when I was 13, I wasn't doing any of that, but seeing him do this at such a young age and having so much knowledge without him even realizing that he had all this knowledge about branding and marketing and promoting himself was pretty amazing to me. And just seeing when he really, took off and really got into that and really showed his passion, it was like, okay, this is something he really enjoys doing, and he's good at it. When he was 13, he created his own logo, him and his friends, and just kind of branched out and blew up from there. So it was great for me to see, and some proud moments along the way.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's really important to recognize that to be, especially like a streamer, you have to be a jack of all trades, right? You have to be a good public speaker. You have to be good at marketing. You have to be creative. You have to be so many things to really make your channel competitive, to really make your channel something that people want to watch. So you're absolutely right. There's so many skills that folks learn when they get into that field. Absolutely.
Yeah, and for me, seeing him, here he was, very shy, quiet kid who didn't have many friends, had his anxiety issues, like all of us. But seeing him when he flipped the switch and hit record on his stream or his YouTube videos, he was different person. His personality really came out. It allowed him to be comfortable with who he is and what he was doing, because he was doing something he loved, and it just gave him that opportunity to shine.
That's amazing. So let's I'm sure both of you kids are saying, "Hey, mom, dad, let's stop talking about me." So let's switch gears a little bit and talk about once both of you had this light bulb moment, like, "Hey, my kids are really enjoying this. This is their passion. I'd like to help support them in this." Where did you go from there? I know, Shay, you mentioned you started looking for resources. Where did you find?
I found nothing. That was the frustration. So right after that, we actually went to two big events. We went to TwitchCon, and he competed in Twitch Rivals. And we went to an event in Toronto. And at both of those events, I found other pro parents. And I soon realized that all of my best information about what to do and how to help him and how to manage this, his time, his school, everything was coming from these other parents. And Chris was one of those parents I found at an event in Toronto. And I asked him a million questions. And so that's kind of where it all started. Is I realized my best resources were other parents.
Absolutely. Chris, how about you? How did you start looking for resources, and what did you find at first?
Same issues. I didn't really find much. It was just looking around for some of those resources, like what online schools work. There wasn't much for me to fall back on. So it was just my son and I just carving our own path, and me basically following his lead and just kind of overseeing everything. We were very fortunate, though, early on, that we did find Misfits Gaming. My son signed to them when he was 14. But again, not a whole lot of resources other than that for me to fall back on. So as we were starting to go to TwitchCon and PAX and all these other events and meet and greets and lands, kids were lining up to meet him, to get autographs and pictures. And at the same time, over time, I noticed that parents were lining up to meet me, not for my picture or anything, which is great because I'm not very photogenic or anything, but they wanted to pick my brain to see what resources I had, and where can they go to find out about health and fitness and wellness and keeping their kids active, and where can they go about the schoolwork and balancing schoolwork and gaming. But again, I had nothing to point them back to other than my own experiences.
Mm-hmm.
So when all the parents kind of met up at World Cup, that was another light bulb moment. And meeting all these other parents and meeting Shay, we all had the same issues. We all ended up in the same place, but we all took different paths because we didn't have any resources to fall back on. So that's why COPE came about. That's how we all came about as an organization, and decided to put this together to provide these resources for parents once we started finding all of them.
Absolutely. And that is just so important. So I'm really grateful that COPE came about. I think it will help not only a lot of parents, but a lot of students, a lot of kids, because honestly, the biggest hurdle I think that kids face entering the industry is getting the support of their parents. It's not getting the equipment or the know-how of how to be a streamer. It's really getting your family behind you. So organizations like COPE are few and far between and are really, really needed in this space. So Shay, why don't you tell us a little bit about what COPE does? Do you have different programs? Do you have different resources? How can folks reach out to you if they have questions?
Yeah, definitely. So, what you said is actually really important there. We are an organization of parents, but the reason we formed was for the gamers. because we were continually frustrated with what we were seeing in the community. We were having so many gamers reach out to us online asking us why we supported our sons and how did we help them, get their parents to support them. What can they do? And we were all getting those questions over and over again. And that's kind of how this formed, because one of the moms, Mama Benji Fishy, created a little video on YouTube and said, to the gamers and said, this is how you can get your parents to support you. And that started a conversation between all of us when we realized we were all answering those same questions. So we decided that it would make more sense to organize and answer these questions together. And that's how it started. So we are a support for the gamers. We are a direct line. They mainly reached out to us on Twitter. And our DMs are full every day with help desk questions. Some of them are about their parents. Some of them are questions about organizations or games or education, and even help in getting their Epic account back when it gets banned. I mean, we help out with a little bit of everything that a parent would normally help out with. We also work with a lot of education groups because we're all about showing parents and the gamers that there is huge benefit here for your college education. And it's not just the parents that don't understand that. We talk to so many pro gamers who don't understand that there is an incredible path for them here after they quit doing pro. So that's a big message for our organization. And then, of course, also wellness.
Absolutely. Those are really important tenets that you just listed. Since you said you answered the same question over and over again, and that it started with a video of a mom saying, here's how you can get your parents to support you in gaming. Why don't you tell us the answer today, Chris or Shay? How if I am a kid right now watching this stream, how can I get my parents to support me in my gaming career?
Well, the first thing we tell kids when they ask us that question is talk to your parents, open up to them, communicate with them. That's the biggest key to getting your parents on board with what you're doing, is just talking to them, letting them know how much you care about this field, this industry, how passionate you are, and showing them all the things that you're learning, whether it be marketing, promotions, branding yourself, communication skills and teamwork and leadership, and show them the community that you're a part of, whether it's your own community or the other streamer and influencer communities. Show them and let them in. So yeah, that's one of the biggest things we preach to the kids is open up and talk to them and bring them into your world.
I think that's really important. And I think a lot of kids out there would be surprised about how open their parents are once the kids open up to them, because most, I must say all parents out there, they're interested in the well-being of their children, right? They're interested in what their children are doing, but a lot of times kids shut them out because, parents aren't cool, right? So once you open that channel of communication, I think you'd be surprised about how many parents would actually be very open and supportive about the kids' passions, including esports. Shay, what is your advice? How can a kid get their parent to support them?
Well, actually, I'll go the other side,
Okay.
on the parents. How a lot of the parents feel like they don't understand this space. You talked about it earlier, that parents hope that they choose things that they did. They hope their kids are into the same things. And a lot of times they introduce them to sports that they liked as a child. Well, when a kid gets into esports, that's something that's completely foreign to them. They don't feel like they know how to help them. And a lot of parents just are kind of take a hands-off attitude of, oh, that's his thing. He's gaming right now, I'll stay out. And we really encourage the parents, no, get involved. This is an incredible spectator sport, just like the ones you watch on TV. And if we can just teach them how to spectate and how to watch, they get really excited. They suddenly learn that this is really fun. And so we really encourage the parents to get over that fear and get involved. And also don't let your kids shut you out. Be persistent.
It's difficult. It's
Mhm.
difficult, especially when you're dealing with teenagers, right? But teenagers, if you're listening, it's a two-way street. You have to communicate with your parents. And if your parent is really trying, then let them in. And it can be a slow process, right? It can be a slow process, but building that communication is absolutely key. I definitely agree. So what else, what are some of like specific programs or specific things that COPE does? I know, Shay, you said one of the primary things you do is have kids reach out to you guys through Twitter and ask questions about parents and how they can get their parents to support them. That's very, very important. And that's definitely an easy avenue that people can take. You know, everybody can create a Twitter account. So what else like specifically COPE does to help students and their parents?
Well, our main purpose, we are a 501c3 nonprofit, and our main purpose is to be a resource for parents and gamers. So our website is a point for you to go and reach out to us, ask any question you want. We answer quickly, but also to connect to all of our partners. I know Stay Plugged In is here later today. They are one of our incredible partners and resources. And so we make those connections for them if that's, what they're looking for. We have many other incredible resources across the world. We are a worldwide organization. And so we're working in many countries and helping with those things. And then Chris, I'll let you take the next one, which is the Cope Community Fund.
Community is always extremely important. So Chris, why don't you tell us about that?
Sure. So we started up the Cope Community Fund as a way to give back directly to the gaming community. So all the money, or most of the money that we raise, is going back to the community in the form of scholarships for education and careers. It helps bring awareness to all the different career paths and avenues that these kids can take in the industry. And we're also giving back in the form of equipment for underserved and disenfranchised youth, kids who might not be able to afford some of the gaming PCs that they might need to stream or compete competitively, and also to travel for kids and their families who might not be able to make it to some of the bigger conferences like TwitchCon or PAX or some of the LAN tournaments that are out there. So yeah, that's one of our ways of giving back directly to the community.
That is so important, absolutely, because the barrier to entry in terms of the price, right, the equipment is huge for many games. I started playing games just on a laptop that didn't even have a dedicated graphics card, and that significantly limited how many games and what kind of games I could play. So the fact that you in your organization support breaking down that barrier to entry, I think is really, really important, and will go a really long way to make the community more diverse and more accessible. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So what advice do you have for kids that are listening right now? Just any kind of general advice as a gamer parent. What sort of do you wish you could go back and tell your kids, maybe in those moments of uncertainty or concern?
Well, actually, we've touched on a lot of that right now about what I would tell kids, and that's communication. I mean, they really think that their parents don't care about this space, and so they usually come to us and we tell them what to do, and they say, "Oh, my mom's not going to care about that. She does, she's not going to buy me a PC." And we go back with, "Have you really explained to them how much you love this?" Because you touched on it. Parents want their kids to be happy. And when they see this as something that really makes you happy and they understand who you're hanging out with and who your friends are, they will cut on board. Chris touched on earlier about the fear of who they're gaming with online. I remember the first time that I realized that my son's duo partner, leading up to World Cup, was, I guess, 25 years old and he was 14. I'm like, wait a second, you're playing with a 25-year-old? You're online with him every night? And I wish that I had known then how incredible some of those relationships were. I learned soon that he had formed some incredible, mentoring type relationships with some of these older kids, male and female, and they were really looking out for him. And I wish I had known earlier to get involved, but when I did, it truly changed things.
Yeah, and some of the things that I would sorry to jump in there, that I'll tell kids is not to limit themselves to just wanting to be a pro. Some of the most important thing we stress to kids is you don't need to be in the top 1% of any game to make it in this industry, to make it in this field. If you have a passion, there's a place for you, whether it career paths through in education, through marketing, promotions. We've met lawyers who have taken different turns towards esports because they love playing games, and we've met CPAs who play COD all the time and Valorant, and they have such a love of gaming, so they said, well, why don't I just jump into this industry and help out some of the influencers with their finances and doing their taxes? So all the organizations, all the businesses and companies, they have HR departments, they have community departments, you name it. There's a spot here for you if you're passionate about the field, you love gaming, you love esports. Again, you don't need to be in the top 1%. There's a spot here for you.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's so many facets to esports that folks don't think about, which is something that Josh and I talked about earlier. But you're absolutely right. You know, it is the pro gamers, but it's also the production folks behind the scenes. It's the CPA and lawyers that are helping the actual esports organizations come together. So there's definitely so many avenues that you can go. Now, I'm curious, do you, Shay and Chris, have any advice regarding how somebody would find their way in it with so many options, right? Because as people, and I think especially as young adults, if you think about back to college, you know, how many folks change their majors, right? Our interests change, right? So if somebody goes in thinking, okay, I'm going to be a pro gamer or I'm going to be a pro streamer, and then they find that maybe they like something else, how do you navigate that change? Because really success is a balance between perseverance, but also letting go of things that don't work for you. So how do you navigate that, Shay?
I think that's the thing that we've seen both of our sons struggle with, because, they entered this, my son entered this thinking, he was just going to be a pro. And as he's grown up, he's also gotten more into the content creation side and also looking at other games, because as you say, you change in different games or your passion. And he was very concerned that he would lose his community if he streamed anything else. And that's something that we try to tell the gamers over and over again. Do what you love. If you're doing something that you're not enjoying, then you're not going to, it's not a future for you. So just be open to change, and your community will come with you.
I like that. That's do what you love. It's
Mhm.
simple, but yet very, very specific advice. Like it's a very good pointer. Chris, how about you? What advice do you have navigating, your changing passions within the industry?
Yeah, just reminding kids, like Shay said, it's okay to shift gears, it's okay to change paths, and the most important thing is to just be genuine and be yourself, because people will be able to see right through you if you're being fake and you're just trying to do something for the wrong reasons or just chasing that clout. um, like my son, he started out with content creation and kind of the opposite of Shay's son, and then he jumped into the pro scene and he was playing competitively, and then he realized that he missed making his original content, really wanted to get back to it, but he didn't want to let go of the pro scene. I was like, all right, well, let's find the balance and figure out which one that you like better, and then just go in that direction. And like you said, it's okay to let something go and move on to something else and focus on what you love and focus on that content or whatever it is that you're doing at the time, and your community will follow along. Your community will be there for you.
I like it. I like it. So here we have the three secrets. Do what you love, be genuine, and it's okay to let go. I like that. Absolutely. Now, when we think about esports and kids getting into the industry, do you have any specific advice based on the age group? Is there something that middle school kids should be focusing on, or middle school that parents of middle school kids should be focusing on versus high school kids versus college kids? What is some of the specific advice that you have for those age groups, Shay?
Well, I have a few things. One, I'm a big advocate for getting programs into schools. you
Mhm.
know when the programs are in schools and middle schools and high schools, we're finding that 80% of the kids who are in those programs would have had no other organized activity after school. So this is keeping kids at school and engaged with their peers doing something. And we all know that there's tons of research that shows how valuable that extracurricular activity is. So that's one of my big things. And there are incredible organizations that we can help with. If your school does not have an esports program, we can connect you to NASIF and other organizations where they can help you do that. There are free resources to get those programs into schools. So that's a big one that I advocate for. And then something else that Chris and I advocate for that he can touch on more is find those streamers that you look up to. I mean, that's what my son did, and make yourself a part of that community. Be helpful in the community and be positive in the community, and you'll learn from them and you'll learn what it is you want to do.
That's great advice. Chris, do you want to touch on being a part of the community and getting into that?
Yeah, absolutely. Community is so big in esports and in gaming. So when you find those streamers or content creators that you like, getting involved with them, um, being that positive aspect of their community really goes a long way. And just a lot of the streamers, they have their own custom games. They have their own little tournaments for their communities. So getting involved with that, putting yourself out there, not just making a name for yourself, but helping build the community around you is really, really important. And just keeping things positive and it helps weed out some of the toxicity as well. So.
Absolutely. Now, I would like to talk about toxicity because it is such a huge problem in esports and gaming. And one of the first things that both of you mentioned is that when your kid starts getting into online play or streaming, your concern is safety, right? And that comes down to creeps being online, but also a lot of toxic people being online. What advice do you have for kids to really protect themselves from toxicity? And I understand, you're being positive, but if somebody's being toxic to you, how do you protect yourself? How do you deal with that?
Um, that's where I, think that parent involvement is really important, and
Mhm.
having your parents or other adults around to get that advice from, and just building up that community around you, that does protect you. But I think that, what we've really promoted is that getting more parents involved here will change that environment
Mhm.
naturally. But as far as, the individual that you find yourself, getting attacked, that's one of the things that we provide support on.
Mhm.
We have had gamers reach out to us, for help there, and we are a resource for that. But just not letting the trolls win. They're just out there seeking attention. And, if you're streaming yourself, there are things, you have mods. You need to make sure that you have good mods that you trust and that are there to support you in your stream, but just don't let them win.
Don't let them win. Chris, do you have but good mods and parent involvement is some of the ways, right, to not let them win. Chris, do you have other advice for not letting the trolls win?
Yeah, I think those are the two key things is the parent involvement and getting a great team of mods around you. When my son first started streaming, and and he'll even tell you he wasn't crazy about it when he first started streaming. When I came to him and I told him, you know what, if you're gonna stream, we're gonna do this the right way, and I'm gonna be one of your mods. He didn't like that so much, but he eventually got over it, and we kept it quiet. Kids didn't know I was his dad. Nobody in his chat knew I was his dad except his other mods. So they were the only ones who were queued in. So being there and being on stream with him, being active in every stream, involved and watching every stream, I knew when the trolls were starting to get to him. And I got to see, I've seen it all as far as toxicity goes. I've seen some of the hate raids that are really awful to watch and to deal with. But when it came to my son, and it got to the point, there were some streams, it gets to the point where he's got to end stream because he just didn't want to deal with it or it got too hard to deal with. Um, I gave him a few minutes to kind of decompress after those tough streams. I didn't go run into his room and be like, "Oh my God, are you okay? Let's talk about it." I gave him some time to breathe. He knew I was there. He knew I was accessible and ready to talk to him when he was ready. So I would give him the opportunity to come to me and talk to me, and we would talk about just the kids who are jealous that he's got jealous that he's got the big community, or kids just want to see their peers get knocked down,
Mm-hmm.
and just realizing and letting him know that it's okay to move past that and to ignore the trolls. And there's always going to be trolls out there like that. Some of the top creators see him all the time. Ninja has people
Yeah.
who hate on him all the time for no reason other than they think it's funny.
It's not funny for
It's
anyone who's
not,
watching out there. It's not funny
it's
to
not
bring
funny.
others down for no reason. You're not really helping anyone, including yourself, just bringing negativity into your own life.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's really good advice. I'd like to ask you about the flip side of things. I think maybe many parents aren't aware about how toxic their own kids are being
Mhm.
online, on stream, in games. What advice do you have for parents to help their own kids be less toxic? How do you even approach that? How do you how do you help?
Yeah, I mean, and of course, that was probably one of the secret reasons we created Cope, is we were frustrated with that there are a lot of kids out there and adults, who didn't have a lot of guidance. And I really feel that, the only way we can change this long term is leading by example. So the more parents and the more streamers and kids that we have showing a positive, side, the more it will change over time. But we also didn't want it to shut down the younger kids from getting online here. We've seen some incredible young, 14-year-old streamers, and they shouldn't be denied access. We're a little bit different from most parent organizations because most want to put controls on everything. They want to make it so you can only access, social media at certain times, or, you can't see these channels. We feel it's more about communication with the parents. Kids are smart. Any control you put out there, they're going to find a way around it. So it's much more important to just get involved and see what they're doing. And yes, we do hope that over time, some of the parents will realize that it is their children that are being toxic here, and that they can change that.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think parent involvement is key. I think it is key. I think the folks that are being so toxic online act completely different IRL, and that's why it's so difficult to catch and correct that behavior. So, Chris, do you have any advice for parents who maybe aren't even aware that their kid is being toxic, or maybe they are aware and they just don't know what to do about it?
Well, pay attention and make yourself aware. Put yourself out there to make yourself aware so you can see exactly what's going on and how your kids are acting, not just in Twitch communities, but on Twitter, on social media. Keep an eye on what they're doing. And of course, you're going to get the parents who just don't care, or who are toxic in their own right. So that's what we have to do as an organization of parents, is to just be there to set the example, lead by example, and remind the kids in the community, even from the top on down, to set the example themselves, police themselves, and to weed out some of the toxicity on their own.
Yeah. And this is also where we held the pro teams accountable.
Mm-hmm.
If esports is ever going to have the respect that football and basketball and everything else does in the mainstream, we've got to change this behavior. And that's going to come to the pro teams. And I think it will also happen naturally as we do introduce these programs into the school, because school programs will naturally treat, and they will naturally teach how you treat your competitors in a competition.
Mm-hmm.
And as those kids grow up, I think it will change.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with holding the organizations accountable, because the top-down approach is really what's going to push this change faster, right? If the coach of, even not the pro team, right? Maybe you sign up for your collegiate team, right? And it's a casual team, everybody's welcome. You don't even have to try out for it, but the coach really sets those standards, right? Of this is how we behave, right? And if you're not down with it, then you're out of the team. I think that's really important. Absolutely, holding those organizations accountable. I agree. So give us a little bit of preview what you think of the future of COPE looks like. Are you working on any interesting programs, any interesting partnerships? What are your goals for the future? Shay?
Yeah, we have some really interesting partnerships coming up. What we really are looking forward to is when we can get back to IRL events, because right now we have a lot of stuff going on online with the gamers and for parents. Of course, we can get to gamers here and on Twitter. We're reaching out to parents mainly on Facebook, and that's all great. But where we know we're really going to change parents' mind face to face, and that's at the big events like PAX and at TwitchCon. But it's also at all of the LAN centers that are being opened up across the country. We've got Nerd Street Gamers and we've got Belong centers, but we've also got all of the mom and pop ones that are absolutely amazing out there. And that's where the parents are. So we're partnering with a lot of those organizations where we have brochures about COPE there, where parents can get signed up, they can learn more, and they can reach out to us when they need advice. But what we really look forward to is what we do at events, which is called the COPE Cabana. And in other words, called Daycare for Parents. And this is a place, I mean, every event you've been to, I know you've seen the parents wandering around the edge, looking bored, wondering what to do with themselves, sitting on the sidelines, scrolling on their phone. And what they're probably also doing is texting their kids saying, "Are you ready to go yet?" And so our goal is to have a place where parents can feel included, They can learn about esports, they can hear from different speakers, and they can let their kids have time to run around and do what they want.
I love it. Cope Cabana. I'm gonna look for it at the
Keep
next
an eye out.
in-person
Yep.
event.
It will be there.
Chris, what are you most looking forward to in the future of Cope?
Yeah, I'm just in the immediate. I'm just looking forward to getting back to some IRL events. We were at one a couple of weeks ago. It was great interacting and engaging with parents and just talking to parents face to face and seeing them, watching them realize that they're talking to another parent of another kid, another teenager who is also at the event with us, and just seeing them just kind of, they're on the fence a little bit beginning of the conversation, and they're starting to realize more and more that there are a lot more opportunities here than they had realized to begin with. So yeah, just getting back to that and just expanding, reaching more parents.
Does Cope have what is the next IRL event that you have scheduled to go to?
Well, we're supposed to be at one this week at Esports Arlington that was called
Mhm.
Project Family, which would have been amazing. It's just postponed, so that will happen again. We would have been at Stay Plugged In event in September as well, but that has also been postponed. So the only two events that are going on right now are the big trade shows. So we will be in Chicago in September for the Esports Trade Show, and then we will be in Las Vegas for the Esports Business Summit in October.
All right. So folks are in Chicago or Las Vegas during those times, make sure to look for Cope and speak to them for their advice, because I mean your advice has been incredible. And so speaking of advice, we only have just a couple minutes left. So if you as gamer parents who really get it, what is one piece of advice that you have for a parent and one piece of advice you have for a kid to wrap this up? So Shay, what are your two pieces of advice?
For a parent, I would say listen to your kid, learn from your kid, let them lead you here. It's just so incredibly valuable. And Chris, you want to take the kid side?
Okay.
Yeah, again, it's all back to communicating to your parents and letting them in and invite them to play a game and show them how fun it is and how much fun they're going to have.
Communication on both sides. Absolutely.
Yep.
Teach your mom how to play COD and she will be amazed
Yep.
at
And
how hard
she
it
might
is.
beat you.
Yeah.
Be surprised at how good your parents are at gaming.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, they just never tried. Maybe they're the real pros. All right. Well, thank you so much both for being here and talking to us about such an important topic. I also do want to remind our viewers that we are also accepting donations for Children's National. If you donate, you are entered into a raffle to win some amazing prizes from HyperX as well as Game Jam t-shirts. So please donate. That also helps kids in the area. And we are looking forward to speaking with Pat Valdez next. So stick around for a short break. Thank you so much, Shay and Chris, for being with us.
Thanks for having us.